With the upcoming release of the Panasonic GH6 at some particular time in the future, I figured it was about time I cover some of my favorite lenses for the Micro Four Thirds system. Now, I've done a lot of reviews on lenses in the past, but being that there's a new camera on the horizon that's video centric, I'm going to talk about my experience with the 12mm f1.4 Prime as a video lens. While it's a fantastic video lens, there's definitely a few things that you need to know if you're thinking about buying it. I'm also going to talk about the 15mm f1.7 Prime and which one you should buy depending on your particular situation. Before we get into this video, please do me a quick favor. Let me know what Micro Four Thirds camera body and lens is your current favorite, and if you're still shooting Micro Four Thirds or whether you've already made the switch to full frame. Now, I know a lot of hype is behind full frame. It definitely has a certain type of look about it, but I still keep coming back to Micro Four Thirds and Panasonic cameras in general for their features. Also, no, this video is not sponsored. I paid for everything that's in this video. None of this stuff was free or anything like that. So if you do enjoy it, please leave a thumbs up. First up, let's talk about sharpness. You'll be hard pressed to find a Micro Four Thirds lens that isn't tack sharp, whether that's the 12-60 kit lens, the old 14-42 kit lens, or any other number of lenses for the system. There's something about Micro Four Thirds that is quite sharp to the eye. Now, you can of course adjust that within the camera or in post if you so choose, so I would have no hesitations recommending this if you're looking for a sharp lens. It's definitely sharpest in the center. As you get out towards the edge, it can get a little bit weird, but generally speaking, for a video lens, it works beautifully. The second thing I love about this 12mm f1.4 is its minimum focusing distance. I use this for so many product shots and close-ups of anything. I'll overlay some stuff on screen right now. You can get within a couple of centimeters of the glass at the front, which is another huge benefit to Micro Four Thirds. So if you need to do any type of macro videography or get close-up product shots, this lens really excels in that situation. Another reason to love this lens for Micro Four Thirds is its ability to blur out the background. Now, this works best when you're really close to the camera, somewhere around here. If you're going to be holding up anything to the camera, you're going to get a lot of background separation, which gives you a more professional look. And I think mixed with the Panasonic GH5S, it's a really great match and a really great look. Maybe its only limitation for video when it comes to getting the blurry background is to get the blurry background, you have to be up close or at least somewhere in arm's reach to get rid of the background. As soon as I start to move back, that disappears pretty quickly compared with full frame. So if you're going to be comparing this, say at an f2.8 on full frame versus a 1.4 on Micro Four Thirds, the full frame look will be slightly more compressed. It's just how it is. You have to get a little bit closer to this to get the same type of look. But overall, man, I love this thing. I think it looks great. One of the things I love about this lens, and it's almost become a necessity for me now, is the aperture ring. I shoot a lot in aperture priority, one, because it's nice and easy to get the background separation, and it also works without having to grab ND filters at the sake of pretty terrible shutter speed, but generally speaking, it works for what I do. So I don't mind, I don't wave my hands much in front of the screen. Now, if you like to shoot in aperture priority mode, or if you like to control the aperture manually, having a ring on the lens is invaluable, especially for video work. Now, it's always clicked. You can't unclick it and have it smooth. So just keep that in mind. I know some of the new Panasonic DG Vario big zoom lenses at f1.7 are clickless, but this one isn't. So yeah, food for thought there. Let's do a quick vlogging test now. This is the Panasonic Leica 12mm f1.4 Prime at f1.4. I've got a Manfrotto Pixie tripod in my left hand right now because I'm left-handed, and I'm just going to walk with this without the IS boost on. So this is just in-body image stabilization of the Panasonic GH5 Mark II. This is very, very usable with this camera because of the extra stop of stabilization. What I'm also going to do now is go over to the kit lens, because I'm sure some people who own the 12-60 kit lens might be wondering just how much better this looks on exactly the same camera, or if there's any sacrifice in stabilization. And now I'm over to the 12-60 kit lens on the Panasonic GH5 Mark II at f3.5, which is where it starts. The same field of view, 12mm. Now, this actually has optical image stabilization, which enables dual IS in the Panasonic cameras. So without question, this should be far more stable, or at least a little bit more stable than what you saw before, because you don't get optical stabilization in the Prime lens. So that could be a consideration as well. But if you're going to be doing any type of vlogging, I actually really like showing off a little bit about what's behind me right here. But if you do want that blurry background to help isolate you or another subject in a video, then the Prime lens will definitely do that more. You'll get far more background blur just with a few stops of extra light. So keep that in mind if you want to open it up to 1.4 you have that choice over being stuck in Schmoville at 3.5. One tip, folks, if you're going to be using a Panasonic system with face detection, make sure you tap on your face so the lines come up like this, and then it's in its optimum mode for face detection. So I'm in face detection now on this 12mm f1.4 Prime. Whatever custom settings I have, I'll leave them on screen, by the way. Everything's still the same. So I'm just going to walk backwards right now and see how this goes. I've had very mixed results using face detection on previous firmware. Now, I've just upgraded my Panasonic GH5S, so fingers crossed this actually works a bit better. This will be like, I guess, a new autofocus test using this lens with modern firmware version right here. So let's see just how well this works. And of course, I have to look at the selfie screen. It looked pretty slow to me, but we'll see how it goes. And we'll go back one more time here. And I'll just keep walking towards the camera like you would if you were doing a walk and talk shot or some sort of lens review in the woods, just to see if this works. And it worked. So yeah, it's a sort of touch and go. While I recommend using one area mode, if you like autofocus one area mode, you can touch on screen and have it focus somewhere else. It'll focus back there, and now it will focus over my face. I've got a box set up right here. I'll put my hand up in front of my face and it's focused on that. We'll go back to my face. Yes, now I'm just going to touch behind me. I'm also going to cover my face here and now touch on screen now and see what happens. It found my hand, no problems. It found my face, no problems. And it found the background, no problems. So you can get this to work. This is the mode I highly recommend using with this lens. The build quality and feel of this lens is very premium. It actually feels like a far better lens in the hand than the 15mm f1.7. Although probably not that dissimilar to that lens, the build quality is far superior, at least in my experience owning both. Now, I love the manual focus to autofocus switch. You can't accidentally knock it or do anything to that. And the focus by wire mechanism is repeatable enough in my experience, unless you're going really quickly, where then it may change the focus distance. But if you're doing basic stuff behind the camera where you're following someone, you shouldn't have any issues at all. After shooting with this lens now for the last year or so, there's three main things that I think you need to know, and it may be a deal breaker depending on your situation. One, the weight. The weight of this lens is far heavier than the 15mm f1.7. So I'm going to leave on screen over here just how heavy it is in comparison to the 15mm. It's not even close. If you're going to be doing any type of vlogging or travel, take the 15mm. It's just an overall better experience. The second thing to note about this lens is it's quite prone to chromatic aberrations. I've noticed this mostly on bright sunny days. It hasn't happened any other time. So where I've shot in the park or maybe down the beach and held something up to the lens, that's when I noticed some purple fringing or slight blue fringing with this lens on the footage. And this is something you can't remove, given I wasn't using ND filters on the day, but it's definitely worth pointing out. The third critique I have with the 12mm f1.4 Prime is the edges of frame get very, very warped. Now, where I'm standing, it's fine, but the further I move off to the side, the more warp you'll see. And it's very, very evident when you put your hands on the side of the frame. And this is true of basically every wide or wider field of view lens. So don't think it's just this one. Nearly every lens will have some form of warping on the edges, but this one's more enhanced than all of the other ones that I have from the Panasonic system. I'm going to talk about why I purchased this lens instead of going for the speed booster and all that kind of stuff. I'm not into more stuff to get the job done. I just want it to work. I want to be able to click it on, keep the size down, and be good to go. So the 12mm f1.4 gets the tick there. It's also got a great field of view, especially with the GH5S, which was perfect for a series of videos I was shooting at the time and still do on about a monthly basis or so. So for that, it's perfect. Mixed with its low light capability, f1.4, from a Panasonic lens, it's about as fast as you're going to get. So if you do need a combination of a wide angle field of view with great low light performance, this is about your best bet. If you're stuck deciding between the 12mm and the 15, which one should you buy? My instinct says go for the Leica 15mm f1.7. You do get an extra stop of light with this 12mm f1.4, but I don't know if it's worth it. Optically, it's no better than the 15mm. You just get a little bit of a wider field of view. If you're in a situation like I was where you needed that and you couldn't move the camera any further back or the subject, then the 12mm will definitely deliver the goods. That extra stop of light mixed with how much more expensive this was, it's about twice as expensive. At the time of the 15mm, I would say the 15mm is a better lens overall. Thanks for watching, folks. My name's Shane. I hope this video has been helpful. If it has been, please leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to check these lenses out, links to both will be in the description below, both the 12 and the 15. They help support the channel at no cost to you. Thank you very much. Catch you soon. See ya.